So we have a major problem right now. You can't buy these drones off of DJI's website anymore. If you go on right now, go to DJI's website, and if you're in the US and you start scrolling through and click around all the different drones, nothing is available. It all shows out of stock, and it says notify me when they are available. So you can't even order them. And so in this video, I want to talk a little bit about what's been going on and also just kind of speak to creators, because many of you out there rely on these tools to be able to make your videos. There's many channels out there that are dedicated to just flying drones. And on top of that, there are so many businesses that hinge on the ability to actually use a drone. And it's something here on this channel, I get a lot of views from my drone videos. So seeing that everything is going out of stock, everything is just not available. And when you click over to another country's website, say Canada, all of it is in stock. So this is a US-based problem, but it's going to have ripple effects through the entire industry. So let me just break down my understanding of what's going on. So right now, there are US lawmakers that are trying to ban recreational use of drones. And they're doing that through banning all drones that are built outside of the US. So if there was a US drone maker making these drones, well, that wouldn't be a problem. The problem is when all these drones are coming from China. Now, is this really a big problem? Well, DJI put out a white paper that goes through how they actually manage data, how they handle it. And my understanding is that they're actually open to having a US three-letter agency come in and audit them to see their practices and see how everything is working so that they can get approved to be sold in the US, because the US is a major market for these recreational drones. However, it seems like nothing's really happening, and we're being slowly pushed more and more into just basically banning the sale of outside drones, which essentially kills off the recreational industry, also small business. And if we continue down this path of slowly banning these drones through these different ways of not allowing the sale or having issues in customs, well, that's essentially going to kill off thousands and thousands of businesses. And so before this whole out of stock thing happened this last few days, the DJI Mavic 4 Pro was a drone that was released recently, but nobody could get it. I was going to do some reviews around it, but DJI couldn't actually get a drone to me. And it's not anything to do with tariffs. I know a lot of people are blaming the tariffs for this issue, but it actually is a customs issue. So these drones are getting held up at customs and they're not being allowed into the US. So with the Mavic 4 Pro, just none of them were allowed into the US. And so they basically just haven't been able to arrive. So basically anything coming into the US right now through customs is being held up. And it either has taken a super long period of time or it's just not even being allowed in. Now, this is a major problem because if this is the choke point and we're not allowing drones in, and then they ban the sale of drones, and then it's just going to cause this downward spiral where we're going to not have access to any drones. Even if they are still allowed in our airspace, there's no way to really get them unless you went outside of the country to grab a drone. I'm going to just pause right here. So as I'm recording this video, I actually just got sent an article from the official DJI blog that's kind of explaining what's going on. So this is going to help clear up if you're wondering what's going on. So this says, navigating U.S. customs, demonstrating DJI's commitment to ethical production and labor practices. So why don't we just read this? A customs-related misunderstanding is currently affecting DJI's ability to import selected drones into the United States. This appears to be part of a broader initiative by the Department of Homeland Security to scrutinize the origins of products, particularly in the case of Chinese-made drones. We want to take this opportunity to provide clarity on the issue. To be clear, this is a customs matter, and the evidence clearly demonstrated by DJI's compliance with existing laws. It is important to note that this is not a ban, and this does not appear to be linked to the proposed legislation against DJI in the US Congress. So there's two things going on. We got the customs issue, and we also have the issue in the US Congress. Those are separate, but both are pushing us away from being able to use these to take photos. So the background, the US Customs and Border Protection has cited that the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act as a reason for the current holdups. Assertion made by DJI, however, is entirely unfounded and categorically false. There is no reason for the CBP to be detaining DJI's drones. The UFLPA CBP to presume that all goods made wholly or in part in Xinjiang or by certain listed entities were made by using forced labor and therefore inadmissible into the United States. The U.S. law allows CBP to withhold goods even in the absence of tangible evidence. In contrast, DJI possesses substantial evidence proving that it has compliance with U.S. regulations, including the UFLPA, and is working to rebuke. So DJI does not manufacture anything in or in part in Xinjiang, and DJI does not have manufacturing facilities there. We do not source materials from that region. All the manufacturing is based in Shenzhen. So this all stems around this whole forced labor law, and DJI in this blog post is basically saying they're not building any of their products in part or in whole where the forced labor issue is. So we basically have these two conflicting sides. We have one side saying that, we can't bring DJI's components in because they could be built in these forced labor areas. When you have the DJI saying we don't actually have any part, all of our stuff is built in Shenzhen or Malaysia. And so what is DJI doing about it? Well, DJI is actively working with the CPB to provide the necessary documentation demonstrating our compliance with the UFLPA. The evidence clearly supports DJI's compliance, while the claims of any violations are baseless and unfounded. We are confident that this issue will resolve promptly if evaluated on its merits. All right, so we got these two issues. We got customs issues, which is holding up all these drones and basically not allowing any drones to come in. That's why everything's out of stock now. And then you have this future issue, which is the legislation that's basically going to ban the sale of DJI's drones and potentially other things. And so what do we do as creators? Well, regarding the legislation, we can call our senators of our state. We can tell them that this is not a law that we're for, that we need this to be voted no on, so that we can continue using our products like drones and all of that, so that we could continue to use our drones, especially for all those who have small businesses that are based using their drones. But there's also something else I want to talk about in this, and that's just taking a step back and reflecting on this whole issue from a wider perspective. Because this is just one product. We're talking drones here, but who knows? It could be another product down the road. And so as creators, we need to be able to be flexible to a degree. And this comes down to what kind of content are you creating? And why are you creating your content? So if you go into a niche that's hyper-focused, let's say you make a drone channel. Well, right now, there's a lot going on, and it could potentially end the future of your channel if you just stay in this one niche moving forward. And unfortunately, this is a real possibility for channels that are solely focused around drones. There's obviously drones worldwide, but the US is a major market, and there's a lot of drone operators within the US. So as soon as that whole group is gone, the business is going to cut significantly. And because my channel has a lot of drone tutorials, a lot of content around drones, really makes me take a step back and start thinking about, what do I want to do as a creator? What is my niche? What is my focus? Because we can have topic niches, and we could also have niches that are around us as creators, become kind of like the Casey Neistats out there, the ones who can do basically anything, and the audience will follow them. And I think there's definitely going to be more of this push of creators needing to pivot and become more of these channels that are more focused on the creator and not so much the topic, because the world's changing and there's so much AI coming on top of things like bans that the whole ecosystem of YouTube is changing. And a few years ago, with the introduction of shorts, it changed the game for long form creators. And now we have this injection of all this AI content that's just becoming copies of copies of copies. And then we have bans on drones, and who knows, maybe other products coming out of China could be banned as well. And so as creators, we don't want to get stuck in one topic and just be a drone creator moving forward, because we need to be able to be flexible with whatever's going on in the world. And with all this AI stuff coming out, I think there's going to be a big resurgence of viewers who want to watch people. People want to follow people. They don't want to just watch an AI tool. I've seen some creators getting a lot of heat for using AI to respond to all their comments, or they're trying to put all these AI elements into their videos. But the reality is, people don't want all this to consume all of this AI. It's a novelty right now. Just like when drones first came out, there was such a surge of just drone videos of people flying around. Yeah, it was cool, but it was a peak. It was new. It was interesting. But what's happening right now with the AI is the same type of thing. It's new, it's interesting. People are making AI channels of Sasquatches or, random babies doing political stuff. Like, it's fun, but what happens in a few years? We're not going to want to watch this content. It's just going to be the same thing over and over. And when you could type it into a computer and just recreate the same thing in a few minutes, it's just going to become a lot of AI slop that has no like heart and soul into it. And it just becomes garbage. And so reflecting on the drones, this big block that's potentially coming our way, and AI and this changing landscape, as creators, we need to really think about like, what are we going to do moving forward? As the landscape changes, as it evolves, how do we stay in the direction that we want to go? And I think it comes down to restructuring what you're doing as a creator and not focusing on all of these external things to be able to drive your channel, but rather think about what your mission is as a creator. There's topic-based channels, there's personality-based channels, but there's also mission-based channels. And this is an interesting idea that Dan Koch posted about recently. And it's like, what is your mission? Like, what is your goal? Because you can kind of mold your content around that mission, and you're going to find different people who are also interested in that mission to come along with you. And I think that style of channel is going to emerge more and more because we need to be able to be multiple, changeable. We need to be able to fly with whatever's going on. And also, we just need to become more personally branded. Like, we need to be creators. We need to be able to step on here, hit record on the camera, and have a conversation. And I've said this in a few of my previous videos recently. There's just more of this push towards people being with real people and not being AI. Sure, someday you could probably do this with AI, put me in my office and have me just rant on something that AI spit out of a computer. But people don't want that. They want that reality. They want that sense of grounded in, a human-based story, a human-based journey. So I know this video started out about DJI's drones being banned, and it's kind of evolved more into us as creators kind of finding a mission and like having a reason to why we're making our channels and like coming up with a niche that becomes more of a personal branded concept, something where it's like, I want to help people do this, or I'm taking people on the journey to do this, where it becomes more of this personal niche, the kind of mission that you're going on. And it's an idea that I'm, formulating and playing around with in my own head and kind of going back and forth because things have changed a lot in my life and my channel. And right now, if we're still chasing the views after, making drone videos, it's kind of like catching a falling knife. Like, we know something is coming and it's not going to be necessarily good. Hopefully things change and like, let's do the most that we can to try and get our senators and, US lawmakers to say like, no, we want to be able to use our drones, but it could all be banned. So I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. I know this was a little bit of a rant, but let's talk about our channels together. What is your mission on your channel? Like, what is your goal? Is this drone, all these issues going to affect you as a content creator? And if it is, how are you going to pivot? Because I think that's one of the conversations I'm hearing a lot in the creator ecosystem is that people are going to have to start pivoting. People are going to have to start changing what they do. And, with all this AI shorts and bans and this and that, a lot of creators have been thinking how to pivot, especially after being on the platform for so long. So interesting times. There's a whole lot up in the air that we don't know what's going on. And well, we're going to have to ride this wave and see what happens. So next, I highly suggest you check out this video right here, where I dig into just a little bit more about kind of my thoughts of what's going on in YouTube, the state of YouTube, and kind of what we need to do as creators. So I'll see you over there.